Can you talk about the impact a government shutdown will have on the American people?
Well, thank you very much for having me. It will have a tremendous adverse impact on the entire workforce for the federal government. And when you've got a workforce in the federal government idled, it means it will have rippling effect outside of the government. It will also have a tremendous impact on national security. I have no idea exactly what kind of plans are being made by men and women in uniform and their superiors. I do feel that we have a real problem.
Mm-hmm. You know, Congressman, as a member of leadership, you had challenging and competing factions within your own caucus, but you never managed to lose a single procedural vote. How did you manage to do that? And what is Speaker McCarthy doing wrong? Explain the work the Republican House members need to do.
Well, as the majority whip, you have to keep up with the numbers. And now you have to consult with your members. And I talk with Nancy Pelosi regularly, almost constantly, in order to make sure that we were on the same page. And then you sit down with the leader. Senator Hoyer was the leader at the time, and he had relationships that I may not have had. And so we just kept communicating, communicate. That's what it's all about.
Mm-hmm. Do you know why Republicans are threatening a government shutdown? What's their end game?
I don't think they have an end game. I think that what they are attempting to do is satisfy 5 or 6 people that he made some kind of a deal with, and letting them, it's like the tail wagging the dog. So they don't have a plan.
Speaker McCarthy negotiated with the White House to end the debt limit crisis and has now agreed to consider legislation that includes more funding cuts than what was in that agreement. As we try to avert a shutdown, can we take McCarthy at his word?
I don't see how we can, because he just demonstrated that he's not keeping his word. He made a deal. And the Senate has been operating for several days, weeks now, really, to live up to that plan. And they have done all of their work with that agreement in keeping with it. And it's been bipartisan. All of a sudden now, the House cannot seem to do what they said they were going to do. The Senate has been acting on the plans that was made by the House.
Mm-hmm. You know, Congressman Clyburn, New York Republican Congressman Mike Lawler told reporters, quote, if there is not going to be a CR, continuing resolution, coming out of the House Republican caucus, then I will move forward with a discharge petition. Congressman, do you foresee Democrats working with Republicans on a discharge petition?
I can foresee that. I would love to see a discharge petition. And I would hope they would have at least 200 Republicans that vote for it. And then you would only need 18 Democrats to vote for it if all people are present and voting. And I do know that if a continuing resolution would do the things that are necessary to protect the military and to make sure that there aren't any harms brought to people in the community, I do believe we could get 218 votes to get a discharge petition on the floor.
Are there 200 Republicans who would actually vote for that? Or maybe even 100?
Well, if you've got 200, only 5 or 6 people voting no on the rule, all you need is the people who voted for the rule.
Mm-hmm. So, Congressman, you watched John Boehner and Paul Ryan essentially be run out of the speakership by the hardliners in their party. And now Speaker McCarthy appears to be going that route. How does it end?
Well, I don't know how it ends for them. But I do know John Boehner just got fed up. He had a very good relationship with people on my side of the aisle. He was a guy that I interacted with on a personal basis very often. And I also worked very closely with Speaker Ryan. He, too, got a bit frustrated. I do believe that if they had what it would take to sit down and do some things in a bipartisan way, both of them would have been able to hold on to their jobs. Mm-hmm. I think the same thing can happen with Speaker McCarthy. If he were to sit down with Hakeem Jeffries and work on a bipartisan resolution to this and have a strong majority of Republicans voting for it, I think McCarthy could make a real good name for himself as doing things in a very bipartisan way.
So on that point, then, how do you see next week going? What is Leader Hakeem Jeffries telling Democrats to expect?
Well, I have not talked to Hakeem about this, but I do know that he's in constant contact with our caucus. He keeps the lines of communication open. And, of course, my one-on-ones with him, I keep between the two of us.
Okay, well, I'm still going to ask this question. If it happens that Congressman Matt Gaetz and others who are, threatening to file a motion to vacate, will Democrats provide enough votes to save Speaker McCarthy's speakership?
That all depends on what Speaker McCarthy would like to say to the Democrats. That's why I keep saying, if he's got a good, solid majority of his caucus, the people who will keep putting his name up, I think the Democrats will react to that. Now, if he doesn't have a solid majority, I'm not too sure he'd get the kind of Democrats he would need in order to hold on to his job.
Congressman, what would he have to say to you that would make you go, all right, I'm willing to vote for him, and then go to your fellow Democrats and say, you know what, this is good, and let's I was about to say help a brother out, but it's not that. Let's help him out.
Well, the first thing he has to do, I believe, is to live up to the bargain he made. Those top-line numbers that he gave out, be sure that he worked to fulfill that bargain, and then we'll work from there.